Hey everybody, how's it going? This is Carl from Carl's Opinion, and welcome to our Wednesday night live call-in show. It's 10 o'clock on the West Coast and 1 a.m. on the East Coast. Welcome aboard, everybody. And see some people in the chat there. So Pro-Life's YB, how you doing? And let's take a look, see who else we got running around there. Saw some people in there. So I believe saw Rocky in there, as well as, let's see, Movie Man. Hey, Mr. Movie Man, how you doing? And Crazy Chick Sheena was by earlier. How you doing, Mr. Crazy Chick? And a lot of news to get to. And Dina Marie, hey, how you doing, Dina? Good seeing you. And happy to be here tonight. So anyway, lots of news to get to. The recent breaking news was regarding Joe Biden, and we'll go ahead and, even though I was going to cover this immigration story, and I had a few stories in immigration I was going to cover first, we'll go ahead and cover, hey, Rocky, how you doing there? We'll go ahead and cover the Joe Biden story. So let me bounce over to that real quick here. Let me get over there. All right. And it's a live call-in show. Phone number is 775-273-8970. If you want to appear by a vMix video call, want to appear side-by-side or with a couple other people, whatever you want to do, just send me an email to, as you see up there, email address, ca2jogger@gmail.com. Just put in the chat, say, hey, man, sent you an email, and I want to be in a video call. I'll send you a link. You hit that link. You come on in. I take care of it on this end. So, okay, so let's jump over to this story on Biden here. Okay, let's get over here. Joe Biden's left eye fills with blood during CNN town hall on climate crisis. And former vice president had suffered 2 cranial aneurysms back in 1988. I'd forgotten all about that. It's like 31 years ago. But, cranial aneurysm, that's not good. And blood coming out of the eye, it's not like your eyes bleeding. The blood's coming from someplace else. So, it's sad. It's sad. He's getting older. He's got a lot of health issues, and he has a problem with memory and lapses. But it's only sad to a certain extent, because if he knows he has all these health issues, he has no business asking to be commander-in-chief of the greatest military the world has ever seen. I mean, he can't be in there, fumbling around and not knowing what's going on and hoping somebody's going to pull up the slack for him, because, when the shit hits the fan, everybody's going to be debating, as far as what to do. But a lot of these people, they know they have cover because they know they're not the one making the call. So they can give their advice and say, oh, do this, do this, do this. And then if, the president does something, he's like, well, it wasn't me. I might have advised him, but I didn't actually make the call to do something. He has to make the call. And if he's not healthy enough to be president, he shouldn't be running. And if it's for his own selfish reasons, he wants to go out of this life as president of the United States, well, fine. But if he knows he's not healthy enough, like Hillary Clinton in 2016, she knew she wasn't healthy enough. Hey, Jervis, I see you down there. How you doing? It's good to see you, Mr. Jervis. So, again, it's sad, as far as if he has health issues, but it's only sad to a point because he knows it. His family obviously knows it. And he shouldn't be running for president. If he's got these kind of health issues, he's not going to survive the first year. I mean, he may not survive the first, if he gets a nomination, he may not survive the first debate with President Trump. I mean, let alone go on and be in office for a year or two. We see how old everybody gets. The only one who doesn't get older is President Trump. And people are getting mad at him for that. Like, well, how come he's not getting older? Hey, because he's a great guy. I don't know. But anyway, let's take a look at the story. This is from the Washington Times. All right, so former vice president, and it's from Valerie Richardson. It just posted just a couple hours ago, actually. Former Vice President Joseph R. Biden's left eye appeared to fill with blood during Wednesday's CNN town hall on the climate crisis, raising questions about his health. Biden, 76, took questions from the audience and moderator Anderson Cooper during his 30-minute segment as part of the 7-hour town hall, even as his eye grew redder. While the Democratic presidential frontrunner didn't seem to notice the eye bleed, the episode created a stir on social media. Biden underwent surgery after he suffered 2 cranial aneurysms back in 1988 while serving in the Senate. In his 2007 book, Promises to Keep, he actually said doctors gave him only a 50% chance of surviving the surgery. And this is now 30 years later. His campaign offered no immediate public comment. Mr. Biden was one of 10 Democratic presidential primary contenders to appear during the 7-hour climate marathon. And this is some of the stuff that appeared on Twitter. Biden's left eye is totally bloody. And Benny, hey guys, Joe Biden's eye filled with blood while on stage at the CNN town hall. This is not a Photoshop. And there's some gruesome looking pictures there, some up close pictures there. I mean, that is pretty gross looking. That's a lot of blood. I mean, somebody should have told him and taken him off stage. I mean, it's not anything. I guess they don't want him to seem old, but I mean, that's the optics on that aren't any good. So I mean, somebody should have told him something. And Joe Concha, he said he's a regular on Tucker Carlson. He's on Fox a lot. He wrote the analogy here is beyond unfortunate given what's happening with Biden's eye right now, and he referred to what Biden said earlier on a tweet. He goes, "We can't turn a blind eye to the way in which environmental burdens are distributed unevenly along racial and socioeconomic lines." And he goes on, Biden will right these wrongs and stand up to fossil fuel companies. Well, he kind of got a problem on that because he's saying he made a pledge. Everybody made a pledge they weren't going to take money from fossil fuel company executives. And you can see here in the next story, he actually had to come out and defend his campaign fundraiser with a natural gas investor. Everybody's talking about this guy holding the campaign fundraiser for Trump. Well, here's Biden who's yelling and screaming about the environment. All the candidates made a pledge. We're not going to take money from fossil fuel companies, from their executives, or we're not going to have anything to do with fossil fuel companies. And here he is right now having to defend his campaign fundraiser with a natural gas investor. And let's take a look at that. So this is by Bill Barrow and Elena Shore. Again, this was from the Associated Press and then reprinted by the Washington Times. Okay, Joe Biden is defending himself against criticism that the co-founder of a liquefied natural gas firm is hosting a fundraiser for him despite his pledge not to accept fossil fuel money for his 2020 presidential bid. So the former VP said Wednesday during a CNN Climate Town Hall series that he's not violating his pledge. Check this out. I love how he does this. He's not violating his pledge because Andrew Goldman, the guy who's putting on the fundraiser, is not a fossil fuel executive. No, he was just an investor. He's not an executive. He just gave the money that allowed them to build the natural gas operation. Oh, God. According to certain corporate filings, he's not listed as one of those executives. That's what we look at, not who gives the money. Really? Well, you can't have an executive if you don't have somebody giving the cash. You can't have a business. Anyway, he goes, so that's not what we look at, Biden said after being asked about the fundraiser by a supporter of rival Bernie Sanders. And he says, I've kept that pledge, period. He should have followed up with, come on, man. Come on, man. You can always tell when Biden runs out of things to say, or he loses track of what he was saying, or he forgets what he should have been saying, or just memory just falls to pieces. He has this little line that he keeps in reserve in his head. Come on, man. That's like, oh shit! I know I'm supposed to say something really good right now, but I can't remember what the hell it was. So he'll just say, "Come on, man," say it like that, So, yeah, I agree. The stress is totally getting to him. He's just too damn old. Nothing aged well. No, I agree there. Nothing is aging. Nothing is aging well. Let's see here. Boom, 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 boom. Give me a second, guys. Let me get this out. So, and it's from Dina Marie. What happened to Biden? He's just too darn old, not holding age well like Trump has. I agree. I totally agree with that one, to be honest with you. So, yeah, that's actually a true statement. No, I mean, he got old like really fast. I mean, it's like one day he was young and the next day he was like old. I mean, it was almost like night and day. It was kind of weird. So, but yeah, the thing with the environment is hilarious because, again, they all made the pledge they're not going to take money from fossil fuel executives. And I guess he's keen on the word executive, even though this guy, So anyway, so let's see what else his critics now have to say. And he's not going to get a lot of passes on this, to be honest with you. He just isn't. So let's see. Some environmental leaders, including several who pushed Democratic candidates to refuse fossil fuel money, say Goldman's involvement in Thursday's fundraiser still violates the spirit of Biden's commitment. The flap represents the intersection of the climate crisis and campaign finance, two issues in which Biden faces scrutiny from the Democratic Party's increasingly influential progressive flank and its activists who are skeptical of the former vice president's deep establishment ties. Right, because is getting all the corporate money, and so they're thinking like, okay, well, who's behind this corporate money? What are you promising them in order to get their money? So Biden is one of 18 Democratic presidential candidates who signed a pledge crafted by various climate action advocates not to take contributions over $200 from oil, gas, and coal industry executives, lobbyists, and PACs, and instead prioritize the health of our families, climate, and democracy over fossil fuel industry profits. Goldman is, and this is who the guy was, Goldman is managing director of the investment firm Hildred Capital Partners. He's also a co-founder of Western LNG, a firm developing a Canadian natural gas facility. Biden's campaign says Goldman isn't involved in Western's LNG's day-to-day operations. That's hilarious. Though Goldman is featured on the company's website and touted in some of his public statements about the Canada project as a long-term investor in the liquefied natural gas sector. David Turnbull, a spokesman for Oil Change U.S., one of the groups behind the campaign finance pledge, said Goldman's involvement with Biden may not technically violate the no fossil fuel money pledge as we have defined it, but Turnbull added the intent of the pledge is not to provide loopholes for candidates to exploit. In other words, he's saying, okay, we should have added the word investors also, I guess, and he's saying, well, okay, we didn't put the word investor, and we didn't do this just so you guys could find a reason, to find a loophole to get to. Now, the only problem is if they had listed investors, that would be anybody who theoretically owns stock in any of these companies. There's a lot of Americans that own stock in oil and natural gas and coal companies all throughout the country. A lot of them own it through, they don't even know they own it necessarily, like if they have a 401k and the manager of their 401k plan is invested them in long-term futures or oil, gas, stocks, coal, and stuff like that. So if they had put that in there, they probably figured, well, shit, we can't put investors in there. So maybe Biden has a point saying, well, you didn't put investors, and you didn't put investors for a reason, because you want people who actually do invest in the stock market, invest in these companies. You want them still to donate to our campaigns, because if they don't, and we don't get those people, we're not going to have any money. So Biden's probably saying, hey, look, cut the crap. You're calling me a hypocrite. You're the biggest hypocrites out there. Okay, if you wanted a straight ban, you would have included the word investors, but that would have ruled out a lot of Americans from even giving small donations to us. So Biden is not the only top Democratic presidential hopeful who has taken at least some money from fossil fuel sources. FEC, Federal Election Commission records show that Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren has received donations from various employees of British Petroleum, Chevron, Shell, and ExxonMobil, in addition to smaller firms. Warren, though, depends heavily on small donors and doesn't hold the kind of high-dollar fundraisers like what Goldman will co-host for Biden on Thursday in New York. California Senator Kamala Harris, according to FEC records, has received contributions from employees of ExxonMobil and Shell, among others. Harris, like Biden, uses high-dollar events as part of her fundraising strategy. Barrow reported from Atlanta. There you go. All right, so here's we're going to jump right into an abortion issue. I see pro-life there on there. So anyway, this is from the Washington Examiner. This came out just a few hours ago. Sanders supports U.S. taxpayer funding of third-world abortions to combat climate change. Yeah, it's a lady in the audience you'll see in the story was asking him, like, hey, do you think poor people should be getting, poor people from poor countries should be getting more abortions because, climate change and, whatever. And so he took the bait. I had to think that whoever was questioning him was a troll trying to get him to say that poor people should get abortions. I guarantee you it was a troll. Let's see. Let's see. Ah, brother Nubian, where's he at? Hey, brother Nubian, hold on, let me say, hey, man. There you are. Welcome. Yeah. I don't always pay attention to the chat over here on the production screens, but hey, good seeing you, brother Nubian. And yeah, good deal. But yeah, nobody should get abortions. Yeah, I know, but it seems like, and again, we've talked about this pro-life, that this whole abortion thing started because you want to get rid of undesirable people, right? And poor people, undesirable people, nasty people. It all started, these things all started up in the inner cities. And so here's Sanders. Somebody's asked about the third world countries. Well, should they get abortions? And it's like, well, yeah, And so anyway, let's take a look at the story here real quick. Okay, again, from the Washington Examiner. This is from Julio Rosas, just today. Okay, so Senator Bernie Sanders threw his support behind U.S. taxpayer-funded abortions in third world countries when an audience member stressed the importance of curbing the human population because of climate change. This is what the person was asking. Human population growth has more than doubled in the past 50 years. The planet cannot sustain this growth. An audience member said, I realize this is a poisonous topic for politicians, but it's crucial to face. Empowering women and educating everybody on the need to curb population growth seems a reasonable campaign to enact. Would you? And then she's asking Sanders, would you be courageous enough to discuss this issue and make it a key feature of a plan to address climate catastrophe? Catastrophe. It's a climate catastrophe. So Sanders went on to say, the answer is yes. And the answer has everything to do with the fact that women in the United States of America, by the way, have a right to control their own bodies and make reproductive decisions. And in the Mexico City Agreement, which denies Americans aid to those organizations around the world that allow women to have abortions or even get involved in birth control, to me, is totally absurd. So I think especially in poor countries around the world where women do not necessarily want to have large numbers of babies and where they can have the opportunity through birth control to the number of kids they have, something I very, very strongly support. That was Sanders. That was actually a broadcast from Sanders. That wasn't me imitating him. So anyway, but it's like, especially when he says, so I think especially in poor countries around the world where women do not necessarily want to have large numbers of babies. Well, how does he know they want to have a lot of kids? How does he know that? Did he go down there? Did he say, hey, I see you got like 3 kids, 4 kids. I see you got 5 kids. Do you not want any of these kids? And they're like, no, I like my kids. I love my kids. That kind of thing. And he's like, oh, you do? Oh, we can abort them. Well, no, they're alive. Oh, well, just make sure nobody's looking, But anyway, and then earlier in the evening, an audience member asked former Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, Julian Castro, if given the looming climate catastrophe, it was fair to expect our children to continue the cycle of family and generation. And it's funny because, I'm sure what if his mother had decided not to have him and his brother? Julian became Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, and his brother is a congressman. So maybe his mother should have stopped the cycle of children and family in generations. Then I guess he wouldn't be here. Interesting question to ask. That's good to hear. Let me reload this one. Here we go. All right. Horrific deaths, a grim reminder of lucrative migrant smuggling across Mexico border. Let me get this out. All right. So let's just jump over here. This is by Stephen Dinan, the Washington Times. So this was a story out of San Diego, and somebody had smuggled some Chinese people across in the back of his BMW. And I guess they were dead, so he left the car behind. And so this is just kind of an example of what's going on out there. Hey, Duke and Pantera. Let's see, where's Sanders? One thing humans will never evolve from is stupid. Yeah. But, oh, you like that imitation? That was pretty good. Not too bad, huh? All right, here. So let's take a look at this story. So anyway, it's from Stephen Dinan in the Washington Times, published today. It's regarding, again, dead Chinese immigrants in the back of this guy's BMW that he just crossed the border with through San Ysidro, border with California near San Diego. So passerby saw blood dripping out of the BMW and said there was a foul smell emanating from the vehicle left on a city street in San Diego. Police who investigated found 3 dead Chinese illegal immigrants, two of them a mother Two of them, a mother and a 15-year-old son, stuffed in the trunk. This week, authorities announced they'd made an arrest, nabbing Neil Edwin Valera at a bus station in San Diego over the weekend. 3 weeks after they say he snuck the three Chinese 3 weeks after they say he snuck the three Chinese migrants across the border in the trunk of his BMW 528 sedan. While sneaking illegal immigrants over fences or across rivers is the most common method, the deaths of these migrants highlight the more lucrative trade in bringing them straight through the country's front door undetected. These tragic cases are grim reminders that attempting to cross into the United States illegally in the trunk of a car and putting your faith, hope, and future in the hands of smugglers is extremely dangerous, said Robert Brewer, the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of California, who's prosecuting the case. Smuggling of Chinese in particular is common through the legal ports of entry. The Washington Times has reviewed thousands of smuggling cases over the last 16 months and found Chinese migrants paying in excess of $50,000 to smuggling organizations to be snuck in trunks or modified fuel tanks, stuffed inside floorboards or fake stereo speakers, or even forced to fit inside car center consoles. You'd be pretty little for that. Oh, Pan, yeah, I'm taking calls, Pantera. Hold on, let me write that up there. Let me get over here. Yes. Yeah, phone number is 775-273-8970. That was weird. I had a little interruption noise there. Yeah, right. But no crisis, right? Yeah, exactly. No crisis. So let me make sure we have everything set up here for the phone. Yeah, we do. Okay. And where were we? Okay. So smuggling of Chinese is particularly common through the legal ports of entry. The Washington Times has reviewed thousands of smuggling cases and found $50,000 to get in. Customs and Border Protection. There we go. Customs and Border Protection officers who man the ports of entry regularly report opening glove boxes of cars. Check that out. To find arms, hands, or heads sticking up, signaling a migrant has been contorted to fit behind the dashboard. Sometimes the migrants are stuffed in so tightly that the fire department has to be called to cut them out of the vehicles in the way they would for crash victims. One smuggler in a case last month told authorities he always requested Chinese migrants for his smuggling trips because authorities recorded him saying it is easier to hide smaller subjects in the vehicle. Because Chinese people are generally small. Authorities have not revealed the cause of death of the three migrants in the new case. San Diego police didn't respond to an inquiry, and U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement declined to provide information beyond what was in court documents. Prosecutors have charged Mr. Valera with smuggling crimes, including death resulting from smuggling, but have not lodged a homicide charge against him. In other words, they haven't said that he intentionally killed them or anything like that. They're not saying it was murder. Maybe they suffocated or something. There was blood coming out of the car. Something was. Maybe they were trying to fight to get out or something, and they broke their arm. I don't know. But anyway, Valera pled not guilty. The prosecutor asked that he be detained without bail. ICE Homeland Security agents say Mr. Valera owned the BMW and never reported it as stolen. They also have footage of him entering the U.S. through the San Ysidro port of entry, that's now by San Diego, on August 9th, the same day the vehicle was left on the San Diego street. Neighbors finally reported it to police on August 11th, by which time the smell was attracting attention. When police found the car, they discovered two female bodies in the trunk. Detectives later realized there was a third body pressed up against the rear wall of the trunk. That turned out to be a 15-year-old male, the son of one of the two women. HSI agents, Homeland Security investigation agents, also have another key link. They detained Valera's wife, Nora, a Mexican citizen, when she entered the U.S. last month. Under questioning, she said Valera, 50, told her he was smuggling one illegal immigrant to the U.S. on August 9th. He called her as he was at the port of entry waiting his turn. He was being paid $5,000 to make the trip and was told to take his vehicle to a shopping center in Chula Vista, that's right near the border, where he turned it over to someone else, with the agreement that the vehicle was to be returned in a timely manner with money placed under the car seat cover, according to court documents. Valera did continue to cross back and forth over the border, but did so on foot. Authorities say all three are now positively identified as Chinese. They have a witness who identified one of the women as Ying Lin, 39, from Fujian. Homeland Security has no record of her entering the U.S. legally. Smuggling migrants through ports of entry can be incredibly lucrative. He's talking $16,700 to get paid going through the border versus, if they jump the fence, you give them a ride somewhere. So of the $16,700, the drivers who were caught at the border with the migrant in the cars were being paid about $3,500 as part of that whole $16,000 bill. Chinese migrants are particularly hot commodities in smuggling through the ports of entry, with rates up to $70,000 per person recorded in court files. Wow. It's pretty amazing. So, Trump triggers Pentagon cuts to pay for border wall. Yay! Finally. But, just these immigration stories, they just go to show you, the media's not covering any of this. They don't cover any of the hardships that are going on out there. It's a real shame. They're really not. That's a real sad part of it. So, and they really should, but, they don't want to cover this because they don't want the narrative saying that, hey, by attracting these people to come into our country, we're helping to cause, some of these people's deaths. Of course, they don't want any responsibility for that. They don't want to be part of that story. So, but, they are, and that is the sad part right there. So, all righty. Let's see here. Boom, 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 boom. Jump over here. Boom. So anyway, everything President Trump is doing right now, I'm totally in favor of. He definitely got the right idea. As far as, and then he's grabbing some more money. U.S. District Court judge gave him a good ruling about, it was like $2 billion he was grabbing from the Pentagon, and they tried to halt that money. And the U.S. District Court judge gave him actually a really good ruling on that, as far as him being able to use that money as part of the national emergency declaration. So he feels pretty good right now. So he's trying to grab some more money as well. So let's take a look at this story right here. Let me get down to it. All right. Let's see. All right. So Trump triggers the Pentagon cuts to pay for border wall. This is from Stephen Dinan of the Washington Times. President Trump informed Congress on Tuesday that he will trigger his emergency powers to divert an additional $3.6 billion away from the Pentagon's facilities budget and instead use it to build more of his border wall, seeking to make as much progress as possible before next year's election. Trump signed the emergency declaration earlier this year. The administration had already tapped more than $2 billion in other Pentagon money, but was somewhat coy about whether it would siphon off the $3.6 billion in military construction money. Defense Secretary Mark Esper outlined 11 projects he said the money would be spent on, with the first $1.8 billion coming from projects outside the U.S. that he said are already facing delays, and the other $1.8 billion from interior projects. Let's see. That totals about 152 miles of wall, though most of it will replace existing fencing or add a second layer behind existing fencing. Fewer than 55 miles expected to seal off new parts of the border, according to the notification to Congress. Costs average nearly $24 million a mile, far higher than the Bush or Obama administrations paid. Members of Congress who were notified of the president's move Tuesday were not happy about it. And this is this idiot. This isn't just an attempt to shift funding. It's a bid to shift power away from Congress to the president. Senator Jack Reed of Rhode Island, the top Democrat on the Senate Armed Services Committee. Senate Minority Leader Charles Schumer, a New York Democrat, said Trump was stealing money. Stealing money. How do you steal money when the courts say you can redirect it pursuant to a national emergency declaration? A national emergency declaration, by the way, that Congress gave to the executive branch back in the 70s, the 1970s. Okay, they gave that away. All right. So he's not stealing anything. Stealing money from military construction projects across the country, delaying upgrades the troops need in their facilities to pay for the wall. Since when has Schumer ever given a shit about the troops or the budget? Schumer's always been about cutting the defense budget. Now suddenly he's like, I can't believe he's taking money out of the defense budget. If he's taking money out of the defense budget to like save the porpoises or some turtle somewhere, Schumer would be all in favor of it. He's like, those military guys, they don't need that money anyway. Let's go save some turtles. I mean, that's what he would say, So then, so Schumer goes on to say, it is a slap in the face of the members of the armed forces who Schumer has never cared about, who serve our country, that President Trump is willing to cannibalize, eat their young, already allocated military funding to boost his own ego. His own ego, mind you. No, he doesn't want to stop illegal immigration. He just wants to boost his own ego. And for a while, he promised Mexico would pay the bills, Schumer said. Democrats pleaded with the courts to step in and stop the president, but the Supreme Court, over the summer cleared the way for the president to spend the initial $2 billion, even as legal challenges developed in lower courts. The Trump administration says it's not canceling the military construction projects and indeed says they may not even be delayed as long as Congress rushes money to backfill what the president has siphoned away. The administration requested the replacement funding in its 2020 budget. But congressional Democrats who control the House and have leverage in spending say they don't want to reward the president's aggressive approach to his planned border wall. Trump, meanwhile, has reportedly grown more aggressive with his demands that border wall construction be sped up. He's looking to have an accomplishment that he can tout as he runs for a re-election next year. In 2015 and 16, then candidate Trump vowed a concrete wall along the 1,954-mile southern border and insisted he would make Mexico pay for it. Each time Mexican officials complained about the symbolism of the wall, Trump vowed to build it even higher. Yeah, but the nice thing about that is, this is all politics. I mean, Mexican politicians, they have to deal with their own people in their own country. So, things like that don't really bother me because, they got to get elected too, So let me jump over here. Okay. Boom. Doesn't really bother me too because remember what Mexico has done for us. Now, in May, I think we had some crazy number, 130,000 illegal crossings, whatever crazy number it was. 130,000 illegal crossings. Let's jump over here. So 130,000. And then we did a deal with Mexico where they'd be willing to take, and then Trump threatened tariffs. He said, okay, if you don't start enforcing, immigration laws in your country and keep these people and stop giving these people free rides to the U.S. border, I'm going to hit you with 5% tariffs in July, and then in August another 5%, all the way through October until it gets to 25%, and you can go, sit on that. And then, of course, the powers that be in that country, I don't care if it's democracy, dictatorship, whatever you want to call it, there is always money behind the people who are out in front. And the people with the money are the big ranchers, okay, and the people who own the corporations, and the people who make stuff that sell a whole bunch of it up to we're the number one importer of Mexican goods, whether it be agricultural, finished goods, anything, manufactured goods, anything. And actually, Mexico, with the tariffs to China, I think has just become our number one trading partner. So we have a very good relationship with Mexico as far as trade and everything else, and we just got that USMCA agreement finalized with the Mexicans and the Canadians, and we just got to get through the Congress. But so we have a good relationship with them, but there's a lot of money to lose if they get hit with tariffs, from coming from their country coming over to our country. So the powers to be talk, and basically, and Trump wasn't really saying, okay, I need you to stop Mexicans from coming across. He didn't even say that. He said, I need to stop these Central Americans from coming across. The guys from Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, and anywhere else further south from that. And so they made a deal where, okay, we'll keep anybody come up here to get one of these phony asylum claims because it takes a long time to process through the courts and everything. We'll let them stay in Mexico as long as they speak Spanish. Because they didn't want to deal with anybody who spoke French or, they got enough problems. They said, look, if they speak Spanish, we have jobs. And their economy's actually doing, somewhat okay. It looks like it might be heading toward recession because the socialists is making some bad economic moves. But it's still, decent down there. And he goes, okay, we'll keep them down here. Of course, I'm sure we're subsidizing this. We're paying them to hold on to these people. I'm sure they're not doing it out of the kindness of their heart, nor should we expect them to, And they got 25,000 troops running around doing all kinds of shit. But anyway, the nice thing about it, in June, the number of interdictions at the border of people coming across dropped 24%, something like that, in the month of June from May when it was really bad. And then in July, it dropped, I think, another 22%. So the total of 46% decrease from the numbers in May to the numbers, say, at the end of July. That's a big number. I mean, it was a big number to start off with, but still, 46%, decrease because of what the Mexicans were doing as far as, their own troops, their own National Guardsmen, federales, and also the main thing was it wasn't even so much that. What it really was doing was that these people from Central America, 90% of them have phony, 95% probably have phony asylum claims. So their main trick is they just want to get up here and say, oh, I need asylum. No, we can't hold them more than 20 days. And then once we let them go, we let them go into the United States. We don't send them back because it's an asylum claim. You can't send them back to the country they're claiming asylum from until we adjudicate it. Because, it might be a real case. If you send them back, they get killed. It might be a real asylum case. So they know they get to just vanish into the United States, never be seen again. But here's the deal: if if when they get here they said, "Oh, you can wait in Mexico," then people are like, "Well, what the shit?" I could go to Mexico anytime I wanted. I didn't want to get asylum in Mexico. I want to, bullshit my way at the border and lie about asylum and just sneak into the United States. So it takes away the incentive for these people to even come across. I forgot to email him my address. Oh yeah, pro life. You gotta email me your address so you get your. Hold on, I'll put it up on the screen here. Nope. The Carl's. There we go. Carl's Opinion YouTube channel. Trump 2020 hat. Ta-da! Yeah, if you do a call in, you get a free Carl's Opinion YouTube channel Trump 2020 hat. But I need your address because if I don't have your address, I can't mail it. I mean, I could throw it in the air and hope the wind takes it, but that's no guarantee you're going to get it. So yeah, I take care of the postage. Well, no, saying $22,000 for postage and handling because I put the postage and I handle it myself. So there you go. But yeah, so I just need an address. You guys get a hat. And there's a few other people that appeared. They haven't sent me their address either. I promise you, I will not show up at your door and ask for dinner. I'm going to knock on the door. Hey, I'm hungry. You got anything to eat? I happen to be in the area. Wait, you live 2,000 miles away. Yeah, I know. I got lost. We grab some water real quick. But yeah, so the deal with Mexico has been working out pretty good, and what's going on with the immigration issue? Let me just jump up to it real quick here. Let's see. There we go. This story is from a couple of weeks ago, but I never covered it because I was gone for 2 weeks. But we'll go and get to it right here. Let me pull it up here. Let's see. This is from immigrantionreform.com. If you haven't visited their site, I would definitely suggest you do, immigrantionreform.com. And it talks about dreamers. And it says the mainstream media and dreamers that aren't so dreamy. This is from a couple of weeks ago. So this, again, what's this guy's name? I apologize. Matt O'Brien of immigrantionreform.com. All right, so he goes on to say, let's see. Despite significant evidence that voters don't want to reward immigration violators for their bad behavior, the mainstream media insists on pushing the false narrative that every young immigration violator is a genius in waiting, whose very presence has made an indelible contribution to American life. But when subjected to any kind of scrutiny, that narrative tends to fall apart. The story of Randolph Angulo, reported by Florida's Treasure Coast Palm, is a case in point. Mr. Angulo is a native of Peru who is facing deportation. He came to the U.S. in 2014. In 2018, he graduated from a taxpayer-funded public high school. He is enrolled at Indian River Community College, a taxpayer-funded public institution. And he hopes to become a dentist. Good for him. The Palm states that Mr. Angulo would be a dreamer if the oft-proposed DREAM Act, which would grant residency status to qualifying immigrants who enter the U.S. as minors, had ever become law. Instead, he had a work authorization, a social security number, and had applied for permanent residency along with his mother, who is still in Peru but is married to a native of Puerto Rico that is a U.S. citizen. The clear implication is that the U.S. is somehow failing people like Mr. Angulo because it offered them DACA but still won't enact the DREAM Act. Heck, it won't even give them a green card when their mother is married to a U.S. citizen. But it's obvious to anyone who is familiar with the basics of U.S. immigration law that the Palm has left out some key facts. It never tells the reader how Mr. Angulo entered the country or why, and those are both critical pieces of information. Based on the limited information the Palm actually provided, it looks like Mr. Angulo's mother contracted a questionable marriage with a U.S. citizen and attempted to get her son a green card as the stepchild of her citizen spouse. If that is indeed the case, then Mr. Angulo isn't the victim of an error by his immigration lawyer, as the Palms claims. He isn't even a dreamer or a DACA kid. He's just an ordinary immigrant that the United States Customs Enforcement service is suspected of being engaged in a scheme to circumvent immigration laws. Hence, the government finding referenced by the POM that Mr. Anguilla, his mother, and her husband aren't an actual family unit, and the accompanying deportation order that came with it. So what's the moral of the story? It isn't what the POM would have its readers believe, that the Trump administration's immigration policy is starving the nation of the talents of people like Mr. Angulo. Rather, it is that broad, happy-sounding terms like dreamers and DACA kids are often used to obscure repeated and ongoing immigration violations by someone the elites in the mainstream press deem worthy of a free pass for breaking our immigration laws. The United States is having enough trouble trying to educate, house, and provide health care for our own young people. So why should Mr. Angulo get a pass for repeatedly breaking the law when so many hardworking American young adults in the U.S. don't? The answer is that he shouldn't. It's nice that Mr. Angulo did well in school, and that he wants to be a dentist. But becoming a productive member of society and obtaining the tools to make one's own way in life are the bare minimum that we expect from young members of our own communities. And it is time that we started requiring that foreign nationals, again, that's who these people are. These are foreign nationals, okay? Foreign nationals who wish to reside here start showing the same level of respect for the rule of law that we demand from our fellow Americans. Exactly. You know, we demand that each of us obey the law. But yet these guys, we don't demand that of them. And they don't seem to think they should have to. Well, who the hell are they? If we went to their country and we just broke every law into the book, you think their country would be happy with us? No, they throw us in jail. Lock us up, throw away the key. You know? That's exactly what would happen. You know? But, you know, again, we got to worry about this guy. And this is another story that came up. Let me pull it up here. Came up a little while ago, and NYPD is rejecting all immigrant detainer requests. So even when ICE makes a request, NYPD rejects it right out of hand. So in New York, the New York Police Department in the year ending June 30th has rejected all requests, mind you, from the federal government to hold detained immigrants past their release date. That's a finding of the Daily News in a report published Sunday. That was last week. The newspaper, a couple of weeks ago, I apologize. The newspaper says the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement made 2,916 detainer requests, 2,916 detainer requests from July 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2019, seeking to hold prisoners past their release date so we can evaluate whether they should face deportation proceedings. The Daily News says NYPD in 7 instances gave the federal agency answers to questions about a person's incarceration status, only 7 times, release date, or court appearance. It says those cases involved inquiries about a person with at least one conviction or serious crime. The Legal Aid Society says the NYPD is acting lawfully. Go figure. You believe that? That's hilarious, huh? Too funny. But anyway, live call-in show, area code 775-273-8970. Pull up a couple of stories here. All right, let's take a look. Well, this is a funny story. She was, quote unquote, Jeanine Pirro was, quote unquote, caught on a hot mic, as if she didn't know the mic was hot. But anyway, Jeanine Pirro complains. Let me pull this out here. Let's see. Jeanine Pirro, this is Judge Jeanine from Fox on Saturdays, complaints of Fox News suspension caught on a hot mic. But anyway, Fox News host Jeanine Pirro, while wearing a hot mic on Tuesday, inadvertently complained about her employer on a radio show, publicly admitting that she was suspended earlier this year and expressing concerns it could lead to her firing. The comments came during an interview during a commercial break on former White House aide Sebastian Gorka's radio show, which he warned was still being streamed on YouTube. Despite this, he's telling her, hey, look, this is still going up. You want to watch what you want to say. And she's like, oh, okay. But anyway, despite this, Pirro said she wanted to participate in an interview on his Salem radio program, but said she may not be able to because Fox reviews everything. She goes on to say they're unbelievable. They're still saying you cannot do Bill O'Reilly, you cannot do Newsmax, she said, to which Mr. Gorka said that was a shame. Then she went on to say, they suspended me. I'm not going to get fired. I know, I'm worried that suspension was the basis of the tee up for anything I do wrong. They'll fire me, she added. The Washington Times has reached out to Fox News to comment and has yet to receive a response. The suspension occurred in March, and I remember when this happened. The suspension occurred in March after Ms. Pirro questioned whether Representative Ilhan Omar wearing a hijab was indicative of her adherence to Sharia law, which Judge Jeanine said is in itself antithetical to the U.S. Constitution, which it is. The First Amendment. Well, you go right through the articles. First Amendment, the government shall not establish religion. You cannot have religious law. You cannot have religious courts. You cannot have those in this country. Okay? We have civil courts. That's what we have. And if you're going to say you want Sharia law, you're going to obey Sharia law, and you're going to go to Sharia court instead of a civil court in your state or a federal court, that's antithetical to what the whole Constitution, well, not the whole Constitution, but what the First Amendment was set up to do, to make sure that we did not have an established religion in this country and that the religious leaders did not run the country, the civilians ran the country. Solex, hey! Good seeing you there. Hold on, let me say hey to Mr. Solex here. Do. How my illustrates what they say is not what they really think every time. Yeah, I agree. Let's see. Let's get that up. Let's see. Hold on.
It's a winner. Keep
Weird. Hold on a sec. Dunk. There you go. There's Mr. Solex. Let's see. Let's see. Yeah, I did. Thank you. I can now not share my hat because tonight I got sweat on it. It's like you go down doing some farm work with the hat. That's funny. Break that hat in. There you go. But yeah. Anyway, yeah. Good seeing you again. Yeah, I was off for a couple of weeks there, and so yeah, I did a live stream Saturday night after I was in I was in a few places. I was in Philadelphia and New Jersey and Wilmington, Delaware. So I was a couple of different places over there, all the kind of within just a few day period of time. So, but yeah, I've been out for 2 weeks. Got really busy at work. Had to take care of some business over there. So, but yeah, good seeing you again, Mr. Stoller. Good seeing everybody actually on the chat room. But been the front of the hat. Yeah, the front of the hat for sure. So let's take a look. Let me find another story here. Let me just jump over here. Oh, here's a funny story. All right, take a look at this. All right, Jim Carrey says that Osama bin Laden doesn't hold a candle to Mitch McConnell. There you go. Well, that's it right there. That's it right there. It's like he got old. He got old quick. I mean, Jesus. Let's take a look. Oh my God. There's Jim Carrey. Yeah. Wow. Another guy who got old quick. He's like Biden. He looks as old as Biden. It's like God. He's like 76 years old or something. He looks pretty old there. I don't know, but let's see what he has to say here. So, artist and former comedian Jim Carrey called a Republican lawmaker worse than Osama bin Laden and blamed him for all the gun deaths in the U.S. this year. It's amazing. Kerry accompanied his inflammatory charge against Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell with a painting of a $100 bill being dipped in blood. 10,000 gun deaths in 2019, and the year is far from over. What Osama bin Laden did to us was terrible, but he doesn't hold a candle to Mitch McConnell, Kerry wrote. And this is his little tweet here. It's a dumb little tweet. A little picture with a $100 bill with blood on it, next to a candle. There you go. And then Washington Times reminds everybody, in 1983, the year before McConnell was first elected to the U.S. Senate, there were actually more than 31,000 gun deaths in the United States. Now, nothing to do with Mitch McConnell. It has to do with crime. It has to do with criminals, people not obeying the law. Like you pass, I love it when they pass a law like, okay, you cannot carry a loaded gun in your car. Okay, you have to have it separated from the ammo. You can't have it in the glove box. You have it locked up. Well, who's gonna follow those laws? Who's gonna follow those laws? People like me. That's who's gonna follow those laws. Honest people are gonna follow those laws. Criminals. Why would a criminal obey a law? Like a criminal's he's driving around looking to carjack somebody. He's driving around looking to rob a bank. He's driving around looking to mug somebody. He's driving around looking to do some heinous thing to somebody. Who knows what. And he says, so he's driving around, he's looking to rob somebody, and he says, oh shit, I remember there's that law that says I can't carry a loaded gun in the car, I have to have it separated from the ammo. So then he runs over to Big Five, and he says, oh, I need 2 gun cases, one for my ammo, one for my gun. Let's see, but what was I gonna say? So anyway, so then he locks the guns up, and then what he does, he drives over to the bank, he parks the car, then he unlocks the gun cases, takes the gun out, and then goes in and robs the bank. Of course, he's not going to obey that law. But honest people like you and me, we don't want to get pulled over. We want to go to prison. We don't want to get accused of all kinds of heinous things, like, oh, you're a bad guy, you had a loaded gun in the car. But honest people having a loaded gun in the car protects you from getting carjacked. But, in states, luckily I live in a state where, we don't have that issue. You can open carry in my state, and we don't have that issue. Well, I don't know, we have a Democratic governor, Democratic legislature now, so who knows where that's going. But, well, shit, I'm right here. That's one I would definitely take up. They tried banning that ability to do that. Because remember, it's the right to keep and bear arms. So it doesn't mean the right to keep arms in your home and bear arms in your home. You can always carry a gun in your house. It means bear arms, bearing them in public. That's what it means, that kind of thing. But anyway, so I thought that was a little funny story to kind of end the live stream on, though guys would get a kick out of that. So anyway, I'm going to end the live stream. I got to get up early tomorrow morning and do some more fun stuff. So I want to thank everybody who's been on the live stream tonight. Let me just get over to the screen right here. There we go. So I want to thank everybody who's been in the chat room tonight. I want to thank everybody who's been watching us and all those who will be watching us later. Everybody who also put a comment down there in the chat room. Totally appreciate that. I want to thank all the moderators and for keeping that big blue wall up there, the blue wrench wall. I know I'm supposed to call it a wrench wall, not a blue wall, but I'm sorry, it's blue. And they did that on purpose, that, YouTube. They did that on purpose, so we have to call it a blue wall. But anyway, the nice blue wall out there keeps a lot of the trolls away because they see all the wrenches out there and stuff, and they realize, hey, you know what? It's we don't want to take any chances. They know if they put anything up there, they're going to get taken out. No big deal. So anyway, guys, thank you so much, and we'll see you again next time. And for Carl's Opinion, this is Carl. Have a good one. Take care. Bye-bye.